There was a time many years ago that I could lecture a group like this or even bigger, but my voice, it's gone. You know. And, thank you very much, Juan. Thank you very much to the library for hosting this event. To Anne the Greg, we go back a few years here. And also to Joanne Gilmet for all the technical gadgets, so you can hear my voice. She was my student many years ago. Okay. You didn't take any of my courses, eh? No, she's lucky. And I see there Ann Thurston, you know, she was my student. Joyce Bruce also. The reason I selected Professor Chong for the introduction is because, as he said, we came here in 1966. And in 1966, and I see a few of my colleagues here, they will vouch for that. They came about the same time. In 1966, this place looked like a factory out of Charles Dickens' novel. And we were the promotion that came to open a new school, the liberal arts section. And I was very fortunate. I was hired, and in a couple of years, I was second in rank and tenure. I wrote all my courses, syllabi. I ordered the library to purchase the book. There was a time I could remember where each book was, because they didn't have the help, and I came and I placed them after they had been cataloged. So sometimes in class I would tell my students, go to this shelf, this designation, and you will see a book there with an orange spine. That is the one. You know, I put it there. But that's why I selected him. We were here in 1966, and there were people who confused him and I. They really didn't know who was who, because we were black hair, about the same height, foreigners. But I've seen that finally, my good friend Juan has a little gray hair. Until recently, he looked like 20 years younger than I was. And I really didn't like that much. So we share a lot of memories together. We've done some good things at the school. We've done some mischief. That is, this is not the occasion to tell about it. But there is another reason why, and I think most people here who knows him will agree. He is a gentleman's gentleman. Absolutely, I have admired that quality. I used to lose my temper now and then when I was here working on something. He never lost his temper. Always would be with that dignified posture. And so I said, I have to bring my friend and this gentleman to introduce me. And he is in my heart, and I think I am in his heart too. Yes, it was very, very, very hard to write this book, and I'll tell you a little about it. But 51 years ago, right at this very same moment, same date, same hour, we were at home. The family gathered together after we all went and voted in the 1958 election. And so we gathered at home, and then the telephone rang, and it was the wife of the vice presidential candidate who was running in the administration or regime's party. And she talked to my stepmother and said, I want to congratulate you and your husband for what you have achieved. It was a very hard and harsh campaign. They tried twice to assassinate my father, failed. And it wasn't the Batista, the regime, who tried to do that. It was Fidel Castro and the revolutionaries, because they didn't want a constitutional solution to the Cuban problem. And so we immediately rejoiced. Well, I want to congratulate you. And then we began to receive the first reports on the polling places, and indeed it was a huge, overwhelming victory. About 40% of the electorate went to vote in the places that they could vote, because the revolutionaries were threatening of machine gun the lines in the polling places. But then about an hour later, we saw a fleet of police cars around the house. And then my dad said, here we go. And indeed, they were at that time rigging the election. They were taking the ballots that had been marked by the people, and they put a new set. Today, recently, came the chief of the Cuban army, wrote his memoirs, and said in his memoirs, yes, the army stole the election from Dr. Carlos Marquez-Sterling. And the way we did it is we printed double number of ballots, and we prepared ones, marked them, and so on. And we purchased double amount of ink, so they'd be the same ink. And yes, we stole the elections. And had the victory had been recognized, and that is the important point of that statement. What happened here in Cuba would not have happened at all. Fidel Castro would be left in the mountains because the problem had been solved. It was a problem of Batista that, he didn't want to go. Well, that was a moment. I must say also that in the background, that through the cabinet member who had been my dad's friend from school days, the prime minister, we had been assured that the elections were going to be absolutely honest and the votes would be counted. So we were all in suspense, waiting to see if it was true. I still have a profound doubt. I want to do more investigation in the future if I can find sources and witnesses and so on, because I have the suspicion that the electoral fraud was not only committed behind the backs of the candidates, and there were 2 or 3 more candidates, but behind Batista's back too. In other words, that the crime was committed not only against the opposition, but the same president. And Batista, during the last few months of his term in office, he wasn't really paying much attention to that. So it's a mystery that will remain there forever, I guess. But the comment, had the elections not been stolen, the history of Cuba would have been different. And isn't it always that the truth comes to the surface when the people who suffer through it are not around anymore to feel good and so on. The same statement comes from Fidel Castro. When he chose enter Havana and flew to Buenos Aires to attend an economic conference, he turned to the Argentinian embassy and said, the only politician that we feared was Dr. Marquez-Sterling. Had his victory been recognized, I wouldn't be flying here with you. So, even all the characters of the equation were recognizing that. But that is 50 years ago. And to write a book dealing with all of that is a very painful experience. My daughter, who never saw that, because she wasn't born, says that she reads it and closes and begins to cry. And she begins to cry to see that horror that exists 90 miles off our shores could have been avoided if the Cubans had not lost their common sense at all. But about 3 or 4 years ago, I had my father's correspondence in exile stored up in the attic. Gloria, my wife, was constantly saying, you have to go through those letters, you have to go through those letters. And I said, I cannot.